There's something that nobody really tells you when it comes to how to strike your irons. And without knowing this, you could be like stuck topping them along the ground or kind of fatting them or just not getting consistent contact. So in this video, what I'd love to do is share with you what that is, which potentially could be stopping you from striking your irons, and then give you like a 3-step process that would first of all get you striking your irons properly, then increasing the distance, and then we'll show you the one thing that kind of really enhances that consistency. Now, before we get into the 3 steps, let me just explain this concept that a lot of people don't really understand. When you're hitting a driver, you want to hit the balls teed forward in your stance. We want to almost hit it at the bottom of the axe. If you imagine that swing as a circle, when the club gets to the lowest point or the largest radius in the circle, that is roughly when we're going to strike driver. But when you're hitting a ball off the ground, you don't want to do that. You actually want to strike the ball, then the ground. I'm sure you're aware of this. So we create the same circle, but this time we catch the ball early on in the axe. We strike the ball before the club reaches its lowest point. To do that, we have to have the ball naturally further back in our stance. But this is where the problem lies. Come and look at this. So we're going to class this as 0 here, right? This is the lowest point of your arc. Now with an iron, you don't want that. You want the ball further back in your stance. So we're going to move the ball actually further on the arc back here. Now, that means that if you're hitting an iron shot, you're actually going to catch one of these balls. Okay, so let's say we're going to go for that ball there. We're going to catch that ball whilst the club is actually heading to the right of the target. It actually doesn't actually come back towards the target until after it's hit the golf ball. So what does that mean? That means that the natural geometry of your ball striking with irons is a flight that should head off, first of all, to the right of the target. Okay, that's where the ball should actually set off, if you follow the natural circle of the swing. The question is, how do you hit it straight? How do you get the ball back on target if that's the case? Well, that's where step number 1 comes in. Let's get started. Okay, so look at that. That's a pretty typical shot from this position. So if you want to hit shots like that on a regular basis, you've got to keep that mindset of you are going to strike the ball early on in the arc, so the ball should set off slightly to the right of the target. And if you want it to come back, we've got to do something with the club face, okay? This is super, super important. Most people are trying to hit irons dead straight. This is what happens. When you try and hit an iron straight, you're going to end up doing this, okay? You're going to end up with a shaft, 2 straight impact. This is your fat shot. So imagine this. If I'm swinging here and I'm coming down into impact and I try to kind of hit the ball straight, I'm going to start to kind of get the shaft almost doing this to square the face. This gets me fatting it, okay? Or you might keep the handle ahead, but now you kind of try to come around and hit it straight by coming more over the top. You must commit to a path that strikes the ball out to the right before it comes back around, okay? So step number 1, bake this into your setup. When you're setting up here, we've got ball position, 3 balls in from our lead shoulder here, okay? We get ourselves set up with a ball position look, back in your stance here, 3 balls back. The hand position is opposite lead leg, and what I'm going to do is as I've moved this club around, look, the club face could be pointing to the right. So I'm going to close that club face down a little bit, then I'm going to grip it. This is important, okay? I'm also going to position 55% of my weight over on this left side. All this is doing every single time is baking in this kind of hitting the ball early and getting the low point after the golf ball. Put that into your setup. So I've moved my ball 3 balls back. I've closed the face, then I've gripped it, put 55% of my weight over on my lead side, then I go. This is the first stage in striking it. And that should be a typical shot for you with an iron, okay? So if you look at this shape here, the ball is set off to the right of the target and drifted back. Why? I've put on a perfect circle, okay? I've caught the ball early on in the arc, okay, which means the ball should set off to the right. What got the ball coming back? Well, I baked that into the setup by closing the face a little bit, then gripping it. I've maintained that shaft angle at setup. I baked all of that in to the setup. That gets that ball setting off to the right and coming back, okay? So this is the first step I want you to put into striking your irons properly. Now let's move to step number 2. Oh, so look at that one. This is typical. So look at this. I hit that 5.1 inches behind the golf ball. It's a horrible one, isn't it? But I set up correctly. I did all the things we just did in step number 1, but it didn't quite work. This often is the case sometimes, okay? So let me explain what you need to do now. We still want to get that ball-turf contact, okay? To do that, we want to get this handle naturally impact ahead of the ball strike. So when we're here, we want to get that kind of like handle naturally ahead. But golfers have tried this. They're trying to force this issue, and that's the problem. So here's what I want you to do. If you can, just pause the video for a little bit, grab a golf club, because you can do that actually indoors. What I want you to do is, I need you to do 2 things. I need you to, first of all, get rid of all force. Get some momentum in this club. That's the first thing. Just get the feeling of this club doing this, okay? Backwards and forwards. Now, as you're doing this, I'm holding it in my fingertips. Without moving my body, that club now is going to release like this, and that would be a fat shot. Why? Because the handle, look, is behind the club head at the moment it strikes the golf ball. So if I just kept doing this and didn't do anything else, that's what would happen every single time. This is you if you're worried about striking, you don't move. But what could I do, what could you do to get that handle naturally ahead without forcing it? See a difference? Watch where the handle is and when the club releases now. And all I'm doing is getting a sense that my pressure is moving more and more onto this front foot. That is it. It's more dynamic, that's all it is. So you can feel this, feel it in both hands. Holding the fingers. I don't move. It's going to do this. Now watch. It's still going to do that, but it's going to do that later. And that's what a golf swing is. It's never tried to force these angles. It's like, can you get those angles correct in the most natural and flowing way? At no stage do I want you to lose that beautiful club head speed going through. So notice now, I've got myself set up, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to really sense how I get that club releasing later. Why? By moving my pressure more and more onto my front foot through the moment of impact. If I hang back, clearly the club is going to release earlier, yeah? If I just naturally fall forward, I don't try and keep the handle ahead, it will do it automatically. Okay, so I focus on that, get myself set up, get myself preset, get myself set here, make a swing, work through the shot, beautiful strike, low point now, look, 2.8 inches after the golf ball, absolutely perfect, nice straight shot. So that is step number 2. Get a sense of, first of all, the free-flowing golf swing, and then how you can move or orientate your body to naturally allow that club to release at the correct time. Okay, let's move to step number 3. So before I get into step number 3, I just realized that 60% of you who are watching this video aren't subscribed to the channel. Now, by subscribing, it's completely free to do so, and it really helps me kind of bring on some bigger guests, which we've got some cool ones coming this year. So if you aren't, and you'd love to kind of join us every single week, completely free to do so, just press that subscribe button and the bell so I can notify you when I release a video just like this one. So without further ado, let's get into step number 3. So I took Stuart, a recent student of mine, yesterday through these steps, and it was working absolutely brilliant. But the real icing on the cake, which kind of took him from just striking it to really increasing his yardage by a good 20, 25 yards, I think we did. In fact, let me know, Stuart, if you're watching in the comments below. I think it was about 25, wasn't it, with your irons? This was kind of the icing on the cake. So we'd gone through setup, we'd started to add some flow to his swing. He wasn't kind of just steering it now, okay? And he started to get a sense of where his body needed to be for this club to naturally bottom out in the right place. But he got his body here, but it almost stayed here. So he felt very stuck. And this was robbing him of a lot of power. So yes, he was striking the ball. Yes, he was striking the ball then the ground, but it was stuck. Why? Because he didn't finish off the movement with the body. And this is what we call extension, okay? So what I want you to do, and I'd love you to maybe even take a screenshot of this, okay? So you can see the difference. A lot of golfers, in their attempt to strike the ball properly, stay down for too long. The problem when you do that is you don't get what I call the catapult motion through the shot. This kind of motion, right? So in order for us to get the catapult through the shot, okay, our bodies need to work upwards. So I love to teach my students kind of almost an image first. So what I want you to do is get yourself set and position, put a maybe 80-90% of your weight over onto this lead side, just push it forward like this, so literally slide it forward. Then what I want you to do is turn your hips as far as they'll go, okay, through the impact area. Right heel's working inwards towards my left, and I'm simply just going to push and extend my arms out in front of me here, whilst at the same time just extending backwards. This is an image I want you to take a screenshot of, because most people are never here. They're more like this, okay, through the impact. Extend yourself up. Give yourself a destination of where to go, because when you now know you've got to go here, it provides, oh, I've got to go there. It's going to provide you with room to come through. Now you'll notice I'm giving this as step number 3, because if you're on your back foot trying to do that, that's never going to work. So you get the orientation of strike first, but once you've got that strike, then catapult it upwards through the impact. This is what's going to really start to amplify the distance combined with the strike. And that just kind of really finishes the job off, okay? And it helps you, it's still a little bit right, curves it back to the left-hand side. So question is, I'm sure a little bonus tip here, you might be asking things like, well, how do players then hit their shot straight? Because you've probably seen it. Well, they do this. One of the things that they do to hit it straighter, okay, so if you don't want to play that curve, they do stuff like this. So if you think of this, this is kind of like the perfect circle. What they may do is we've said, look, if the ball's slightly back in your stance here, well, you can't hit it straight, right? So what they'll do is they'll go, okay, I'm going to change I'm going to keep straight, but I'm going to change the circle in my swing. So what they'll do is they'll either do one or two things. They'll either change the circle in their swing, so now suddenly their circle's heading more this way, so that then straightens the ball out. Okay, so they'll do it in swing. Or what they'll do, and you've seen some of the top players in the past on this, like a Lee Trevino, what they'll do is they'll go, okay, I'm hitting the ball early, I'm going to actually aim the ball, aim my body, look, a little bit left of target, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my club face, and I'm going to get my swing circle's going to be here, yeah? But because I catch the ball early, that ball should still go straight. And what's going to create now, look, is a shot, maybe I've overcooked it a fraction, where the swing direction starts to go a bit left of target, but that shot now is reasonably straight down the fairway, even though I've aimed left, okay? So understanding this geometry is the key for great ball striking with your irons. It's going to be key for your consistency. So do me a favor, leave a comment down below, let me know what you think, see if it's going to help, and share it with somebody who you think could benefit from a video like this. Of course, look, if you're new to the channel, remember, I put a free downloadable practice guide in the description box below, so you'll never have to remember a thing. And look, check this video out right here, which kind of will be the complement this. It talks about the driver, because the driver is different, isn't it? Ball position slightly further forward. How does that influence the whole shape of your shot? Okay, check it out. I'll see you next time.